So moving along to the 2020 results, every year we kind of hold our breath as the picture unfolds over the course of the year. All of the hospitals in Greening Healthcare are reporting their savings, and we see these little flourishes periodically from different hospitals stepping up and recording some really exceptional numbers. So 2020 is unfolding well. Obviously, we haven't got the full year results in, but we have enough that we can project fairly reliably. And the top 10, as it's playing out right now, are shown here. The total forecast energy savings for the year are in excess of $4 million for the first time. So that excites us, because at the end of the day, it's the emissions reduction about this is why we do this. Here are our top 10 in terms of percentage. And Simba, I lied to you yesterday about North York General. The main hospital does not make the grade, but this year, but the 4000 Leslie, your clinical building, it did have a really good year. So these are the 10 that have really made a difference this year, and we've picked out 4 in conversation with folks and willingness and availability to talk today. They add up to well over $1 million of that 4 million. So 4 hospitals account for, as I say, around a quarter of the total. And Markham Stouffville, in conversation with them a couple of days ago, that is such a rich story. We've got new air handling units, direct drive fans, Belimo energy valves, thermal wheel optimization, water conservation, award-winning water reductions this year. So we've carved out Markham Stouffville as our first case study for 2021. So Alan and Maria, thanks for sharing your great story. And the more you told us, the more we realized it wouldn't fit within the time available today. So we have Markham Stouffville as our first case study for 2021. And meanwhile, our friends at Michael Garron Women's College and Halton Health's Milton District Hospital to talk today about their results and what they've been achieving. So if we have a, again, as Michael said, great panel. Thanks to Lauren and Abiola from Women's College. Again, they're not just speaking today, they've been generous enough to share time with us before this to really dig a bit deeper into what they've been doing and how it fits with the energy profiles. Schubert from Michael Garron, the former Toronto East General Hospital, and Jason from Johnson Controls. Happy to have you here from Milton District Hospital, all showing in very different ways quite exceptional results, and all with quite different aspects of effective energy efficiency and plant operations to share with us. So these are our panelists. Without further ado, and Thomas, I'm not sure if you're on the line from Halton Healthcare. If so, I will try to draw you in during the panel discussion at the end of the individual hospital presentations. So let us begin with Women's College, and from the discussions I can present the story at kind of high level, and then ask Abiola and Lauren to wade in a little bit on the details, and it's always the details that people get the most value out of, because those are the things that make these things replicable and applicable to what you're doing. So you'll see here, and everybody I think is familiar with the shapes of these charts, the blue dots are the actual monthly, in the top left-hand corner, electricity consumption. The red dots are the weather normalized baseline. Anytime the blue is below the red, then you're making real weather normalized savings. Those are real savings. And you see ever since the late summer of 2019, the electricity has been coming down remarkably. For interest, we've shown chilled water in the bottom right, but part of the apparent savings there, as Lauren explained to us, has to do with the fact that they've been seeing curtailment from the chilled water supplier, which matches nicely with the electricity increases. So you see the blue below the red on the chilled water in the bottom right. For 4 summer months in 2018. And you can see those same months on the electricity went up because they had to run the internal chiller plant. It's not quite as pronounced in 2019, where there's only 1 month that jumps. And 2020, they got electricity savings as well as chilled water savings. So that has been the progression that's coming through. And again, I'm going to ask Abiola to pick up in just a moment, but really working on controls, the variable volume systems, the damper positioning, a little bit of lighting retrofit, scheduling, in particular, scheduling on 4 of the large non-clinical air handling units. The overall results being hundreds of thousands of dollars in savings, which as a P3 project, obviously is beneficial to both Black & McDonald, the facility operators, and to the hospital itself. Just to complete the picture before we pass it, for this technical piece, we'll come to the organizational stuff at the panel discussion, but the technical piece I'll ask Abiola to pick up. This is what happened to steam over the same period. You can see through the winter, and in particular through this past summer, nothing to do with COVID, the system modification, system improvements having a dramatic effect on steam as well. And this is where I will pick up. So Abiola, can you talk a little bit about those big savings and where you think technically the biggest opportunities were found?
Thanks a lot, Ian. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you very much for the background story there. I think, yeah, for sure, we've embarked on a number of energy conservation measures which are driving the savings we're seeing now. Some of them started like late 2018, continued to 2019, but like the key drivers we're seeing in terms of electricity savings would be the VAV reconfiguration project we embarked on. So we took random samples of number of VAVs, and we saw that, their, minimum and maximum flow set points are actually out of range compared to design specifications. So we started one after the other, fine tuning them to design specification. And, obviously, when the dampers are not opening unnecessarily or more than they're required to open, then you have an effect on, reduction in fan speed, which is exponentially related to power consumption. So as I'm sure everyone is aware, you find hundreds of VAVs in an hospital. So I think it's really, really important to check on them to see how they are doing, because it really, really, it gets back to your fan speed, and which correlates with energy consumption as well. So for
So
me,
the
I
biggest
think
part of those electricity savings, sorry to interrupt, but biggest part of those electricity savings you'd attribute to fan power?
yeah, fan power in general, but if you get to the specifics, that would be the other one is the setback on air exchanges at the operating rooms, which
Okay.
also gets back to fan power as well, because when the ORs are not occupied, we're able to ramp down air exchanges per hour from 20 to 6.
That's your lower chart on the side here, is it?
Right.
That's
right.
your operating room operation, yeah.
Yeah, the first chart. So you can see the red and green lines. During occupied hours, they're like the percentage of the fan speed is around 70% or thereabout. Then when it's unoccupied, it drops down to probably 50 something or 60 something. I can't really see clearly here, but you can see extended lower fan speed is over the weekend, but the short period is unoccupied hours during the weekdays.
Right, and you have set back on 4 of the non-clinical air handling systems. How has that worked out for you?
Yeah, that's also been a very helpful one, because initially we had issues with, finding the right time to do setback on. So should it be 7 p.m. or 8 p.m.? We weren't sure when the last person would be in the hospital. We used card swipe data to find, to get an idea of who is in the building when, um, you know after hours, for example. So we're able to determine that by 8 or 9 p.m., almost everybody's is gone except for security guys doing their round. So we were able to work with the hospital to put a setback on four big hair handling units, so they go off completely after hours and over the weekend as well. So that's a massive savings on electricity side, as well as steam and chilled water.
Okay, that's terrific. So we'll come back on a couple of those things. Especially, I'm interested in how the OR ventilation project proceeded. But let's step on to set the stage with Milton District. And Thomas, are you on the line by chance?
Hi, Ian. So we have Jason joining us. The hospital members weren't available today.
Okay. Okay. So Jason from JCI, thanks for doing this. So once again, just running through the story, the way that Greening Healthcare sees the hospital through the lights. You can see during the winter of 1920, the electricity use up a little bit, and that's due to them really getting the heat recovery chiller running well. So you can see but meanwhile, that's being offset by scheduling coming through. And again, I'll pass this to Jason in just a second. On the gas consumption side, the existing site is the old hospital, so JCI is not running that. And I know that we're going to get some feedback from the hospital on what changes they made there. But the new building, which is the P3 building, which JCI is responsible for, you can see the dramatic reduction in gas consumption. So a little bit of electricity increase, massive amount of gas savings and greenhouse gas emissions reductions, which makes us very very happy. But let me pass this over to you, Jason, on the technical details of what you did and how you did it.
Yes, hi. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. About a couple of years ago, we started looking at the energy performance of the site and had identified that there were some savings based on natural gas and a little bit on electricity. So we started looking at the actual site consumption and realized we needed something to measure the performance and where the energy was going throughout the facility. So what we did is implement a analytical tool, the OpenBlue energy monitoring system, where it interconnects over 150 types of meters to this analytics tool, where we can analyze various energy meters almost in real time and graphically interpolate 1 meter versus another and seeing where the energy is being delivered, being consumed, and being produced. By understanding all these items and then segregating based on what types of energy mixes, we were able to identify correctly, quite quickly, changes that were required, test them in real time, and see the savings almost immediately the next hour or next day at the very least. And this was on a continual commissioning process that we went on for the site, and it really reaped a lot of rewards for the site. And as you can see, the gas savings throughout the year, even during the peak of the winter, were significant comparatively to what it was running the year prior, with almost little to no expense of the electricity we were able to maintain during the time period. That's how we achieved essentially all the energy savings that we did throughout the year and continue to do so.
You mentioned scheduling when we spoke, Jason. How has that been progressing?
We went and worked with our home health partners and identified key areas where departmental hours for air handling units could be scaled back, and interviewed all key departmental managers, ensured that their hours of operations would comply with the schedules that we had currently and adjusted accordingly, which actually did help with the electricity reductions, or to maintain the electricity reductions during the time period where we wanted to use a little bit more electricity for a heat recovery chiller, for example.
Okay, that is great. I say that there's common themes around here where I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that for both Women's College and Milton District Hospital, this is not significant capital investment involved here, but it's a lot of brain power. So the idea that this is all shifting to really understanding systems and optimizing them and making them do the best that they can, as opposed to replacing technology. Would that be the case with Milton District, Jason?
No, absolutely. Being a new P3 project that had been completed, using the engineering ideals that are out there and trying to understand the facility is key to maintaining continual performance. And like I said before, the analytics tools really helps you identify the changes, because traditionally we would have to rely on a whole building meter or a couple of meters and a couple of data points, right? In this case, by having a continual stream of energy detailed, you could almost make an impact and then see the reduction of the energy instantaneously. And if it goes in the wrong direction, you know that it's wrong, but you can also validate, hey, I'm going in the right direction. That was a good move. I should do these 3 other items. Do they interact? Especially with these very complex facilities where one impact to one system may negatively impact the other systems. And it's a fine balance between juggling between chilled water, heating, steam, electricity, as everybody here knows for hospitals.
Okay, so from 2 relatively new hospitals with all the technology and all the gadgets, Schubert, let's pick up with, shall we say, an older facility with Michael Garron. So once again, you can see the gas in the top corner, which has been consistently improving. And in fact, the last summer of 2020, that is the lowest gas consumption the hospital has ever seen. And you can see how much the blue dots on the right side of the gas curve have come down from where they were back in 2017. And electricity, a significant jump in 2019 during the summertime, but now right back on track. So there's a story to tell there around your gas and electricity and the capital improvements you've made to the chillers, Schubert. Then I want to come back with you, if I may, to your water conservation picture. But tell us the story around what you've been up to with with this older hospital.
Thank you, Ian. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So I arrived here 26 months ago, and as soon as I arrived, I looked at the utility consumption and the bills, and I saw a great appetite for conservation. And of course, I had to get the right team, and we had the team here. It's just that I had to get a culture of conservation, taking into consideration that I have been at other greening health seminars, and I'd seen that when I used to work at the other hospital, that Michael Garron did receive an award in 2015, and then I seen there was something that had happened, which happened with all hospitals, that they've gone off track. So I had to embark on the journey to bring it back. And of course, the first thing is I got my whole team involved. So what makes it great story is that it's not only my guys who are involved in this, but I have a broad portfolio of 5 managers, even security and biomedical and everybody else. So all of them are into this. My whole team looks at energy conservation, and what they can do on a daily basis. So the culture was important for me, because there's only so much I can do on my own. Having said that, so when I went to electricity, I was new here, and in a very few third month, I went to the business case to my exec team, asking them for $800,000 for VFDs. And even though this was ESCO project going back in 2008, where they had installed new chillers, they had gone with direct line starters. And I thought because they were 4160 volt, so nobody likes to touch a 4160 volt motor. So I said, let's do it. And of course, we did it. And one of the biggest savings in electricity that we've seen this summer was because we commissioned our new VFDs. And we've seen substantial savings in electricity from that, as well as we also did a lot of occupancy lighting in all our washrooms, in offices. We went into LED lights, and we're still continuing this. So this has helped us to reduce electricity. The other reason that we reduced electricity was also occupancy scheduling of a lot of our air handlers. We got more than 50 air handlers at this and multiple exhaust fans. So you can imagine that reduced the hydro consumption. So these are the reasons I reduced hydro. Going to natural gas, of course, it has a connection with occupancy scheduling that we did. Also, I found that on many of my mixed air fans, I found that we were using a lot of outside air, and I got our BAS company, which we have here, Honeywell, to look at it and reprogram based on what was the requirement of those fans. Also, on our humidifiers on each fan, we made it a practice to physically go to every fan and shut off the hand valve so that we don't have any losses and we're not heating and cooling at the same time. We also went into a lot of mechanical insulation. We had a lot of 5-6 poles destroyed insulation. I think that's what attributed to electricity and natural gas savings. Yep.
Color commentary to that, Shubert, like the former Toronto East General, now Michael Garron. This is in the top among the older hospital group we have. So you've heard from two of the new hospitals. Among the older hospitals, Michael Garron is already close to straight greens in terms of its energy profile. In other words, it's pretty close to its targets on every energy component, base electric, cooling electric, and so on. And this brings it even closer still with the recent improvements. So this is very much a case of an older hospital without all the bells and whistles that are found in the new ones, really making the most out of the infrastructure they have. But the second half of your story, Shubert, is the horror and the ecstasy of your water consumption. So tell the story about how, and this is a lot of money on this chart. So water use back in 2017, which I think is before you arrived, so it's not your fault. And then how, knowing that huge increase was there, how you found it, who found it, what was that hunt like? It took a while, but what actually happened to bring your water consumption numbers, which again, the baseline is pretty good, just went out of control for a couple of years there. How did that story unfold?
If you look at this graph, you'll see that it was not a mystery. Everybody knew that going back in 2017, and we knew exactly the date and time when this happened because we were monitoring. However, years passed by and still nobody really could figure out what happened. And then I arrived 26 months later, and what I did is I kind of, got my team once again, depend on my team greatly, got them inspired. I said, we need to find this. And there were times that I did a walk around the whole hospital with some of them. And of course, I think as many of people who are on this call are leaders, and when they see that the leaders are taking an initiative, they run with it. And then I saw that many of my team were on their own trying to figure out where we were losing all this water. And one of the individuals actually who found it, he's on the call. His name is Jeremy Brown. He found this, and it was a great story for us because it was a 1-inch line that was fully open, and it was just dumping water. It was a flushing line that used to flush some of the sewer. It was, I think, a sewer line, and because it used to smell, so somebody had opened it fully and left it open there. And Mr. Brown found it, and he made us all look good, and that's our story. But as I said, if we formulate the culture in our organizations, our rest will follow.
And that's the fascination with water, isn't it? One line, one mistake, and it's added 40% to a whole hospital's water consumption. It's a breathtaking number, isn't it?
It is. It has a lot of money for us to spend and invest in other projects.
So you put a bounty on the water leak, and Jeremy found it. Good job, Jeremy. So thanks for that, Shubhat. And let's kind of pick up on some of those themes for a kind of conversation around ourselves. Let me check. Amandeep, any questions from the audience yet?
No questions yet.
Okay. My suggestion to everybody is think about what you'd like to know about how these things happen, because this is a kind of one-off panel discussion, as you know. But here are our panelists, and there were 4 areas we wanted to explore. One was on the investment side. How do you make the business case for doing this kind of thing? So in a moment, Shubhat, I'm going to ask you, your $800,000 is not a small amount of money to upgrade your chillers. So really interested to know how you pulled that one off. And then the whole area of programming. So you've heard from Jason about data analytics and how enhancing that data flow and the ability to collect and process data and use it to take action. And with Abiola, you're back to working your way through system by system and fine tuning and commissioning and so on. So the role of building operators in this, I think, Abiola, I'll come back to you if I may on that one. And Lauren, I'm really interested in your thoughts about, because everybody's touched on this. How do you engage with the hospital departments, the hospital staff, so they're accepting and supportive of the work that you're doing? But starting with you, Shubhat, around how did you manage to extract in hard financial times $800,000 out of hospital management to upgrade your chillers? It was still working, right?
Yeah. So the first thing that these chillers were installed by Honeywell, but they were carrier chillers, and the first thing I got was we were close to changing our vendors for chiller maintenance. It so happened that through the bidding process, I got Carrier on board, and then I signed a long-term contract with them. Of course, it was not I don't have a comprehensive. It's just regular contract. And I asked them that I was interested in installing VFDs on these chillers, and it's again I come to 600 volt versus 4160. Everybody shies away from 4160, so they kind of they had the same reaction initially, but then they started making the calls, and they first went to Siemens, and then it was taking too long, so they went to Rockwell. So we finally went with Rockwell VFDs, but going back to the business case, So they gave me a business case, and we looked at what does the exec look for. And of course, at any hospital, you know, the exec, you have one finance VP and the CEO, and the rest mostly are clinical. So they look at how much is the return, and of course the payback was 5 years, just about 5 years, and I know that from previous projects that I've run, that if I could bring them something below 6 years or even 6 years, they would buy into it. So I went and presented my business case to the exec, and you know, they just loved it. They seen the return on investment, and I don't know what else to say, because you know, so I went with other projects for 9 years and I've got rejected. So this, I know 5.6 did sell.
The whole, what we find generally is that within the facilities departments, the assumption is that it's really hard to compete for capital when you've got so many clinical requirements and there's so little money to go around. But at the other end, speaking to CFOs and CEOs, they love seeing, as you say, well thought through, credible business cases, especially as in your case, and I think just about everybody on this call, when you've got a track record of delivering on what you say you will. So the fact that after that investment, you're now a couple of years later getting an award, it just is very reassuring for them. So our belief is that most hospital executives want to make good business decisions, and we just got to give them good information to help them do that. Jason, getting into the success you've had at Milton District, and we're well aware at other sites with JCI, has all to do with orchestrating, as you say, what are now fairly complex plants. Back in the day, you had your big chunky steam boilers, and they chugged away, and pressure reducing valves and heat and so on was all kind of going on. Now we've got heat recovery chillers, we've got low pressure steam, high pressure steam, process equipment, hot water boilers, and your success seems to be, to a large part, linked to being able to orchestrate all that stuff, get it all running in the right way at the right time. What does some of that earthy programming look like? What kind of talent do you have that does that work? We promise not to come poaching them. And how do those analytics lead into your folks being able to upgrade the programming, the operating sequences to get more out of the plant that's already there? What does that look like?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. First of all, I'd like to thank being part of this panel. It's truly some really incredible stuff that everybody here has done. I mean, Schubert, you've done a great job of getting the projects down and finding that water. I know that's like the pin in the haystack that you're trying to find, and you finally found it, and that's a true celebration. And Abiola, doing that hard work, I understand that that's a lot of work to go through, and getting everybody on board and getting it, that's great. For us, the true strength of what we bring as what we've done is because we have so many sites and so much understanding of these complex systems, by leveraging our specialties and our engineering and controls knowledge between these sites, we can talk between each other and understand what works and what doesn't. And if you see like last year's efficiency trends and this year's as well, you'll see that there's a general sense of everybody in our P3 working together and implementing the same types of control strategies and understandings and conversing. And that's truly, it's just like what Schubert was saying. You have to get everybody on board at the same time to work together, and you have to communicate. And having that open sense of communication between groups, even if it's a departmental manager or between different types of hospitals. In our sense, what we do is we leverage that, and we leverage our specialties and understandings of very complex systems. And things can go awry pretty quickly. But that's why we've implemented our analytics system, the Open Blue, so that we can figure out in real time, not a month or 2 months in arrears with, Enbridge and Toronto Hydro or whatever utility company gives us as the information. And then in real time, really figure out, hey, something's really going awry here. We need to jump on it. Otherwise, we're going to be in pain. Or you could let it run for a couple of months and all of a sudden it's a little bit too late, right? So you leverage that specialty and you have those open types of conversations between our energy managers, our plant engineers, and the control specialists.
Okay, let's Abiola, let's move on to when we spoke with you. You were, we're going to give you all the credit for all the good things that have happened at Women's College, but you spoke glowingly of your team there. How does the operating team there work together to both understand and what information do you give them to help them connect the dots? Do they see the blue dots below the red dots? How do you encourage, inform, train, motivate the operating team that's working to make Women's College as successful as it has been?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I would say one of the factors that has been really helpful is the fact that Black and Mac has boots on ground on that facility. So the operators, the facility managers, they're all within Black and Mac's workforce. So so it's easy to create an internal culture of conservation. For example, we started an initiative last year. It was the Good Catch program. So it was a way to incentivize the operators to keep looking for opportunities to save on energy, because they work on this equipment directly. I may be able to log in remotely or come on site every now and then because I have some other facilities I look after as well. But they are the boots on ground, and they are encouraged to look out for opportunities or report on issues or things that are going wrong. So we implemented this Good Card program that they submit their ideas of energy conservation. Then at the end of the month, we review together. Then we pick an energy champion for that month. So that has been really, really helpful because it motivates them to want to do more. The other thing that has been helpful is that we've been celebrating our wins as well. So for example, the energy champion gets a recognition, special recognition at the annual event we have within Black and McDonald. So he's the energy champion for Women's College Hospital. Another energy champion will spring up somewhere else in the coming years. So that has been really, really helpful. The third thing I was going to mention is that when I started my role, one thing that I try to work with the operators to understand is that there's a connection between, putting an override on one particular equipment and the overall system. So I kind of like introduce a system approach, not just like, okay, I can do this on this particular equipment. There may not be any repercussion on it. So I try to help them connect the dots that, okay, this is the impact of what's going to happen if we leave this on like this. So that has been really, really helpful. And the other thing also, to Jason's point, you can't underestimate the impact of analytics. So we have this platform where we draw in interval data from the BAS as well as the one from Toronto Hydro's Power Lens platform. So we're actually able to see in close to real time what's happening in the facility. And we created login accounts for our operators as well. So when they see spikes, they also know that things are going wrong. So they're actually proactive rather than reactive. So they don't have to wait until the end of the month to get things sorted out. So I think these factors all together have been really, really helpful. And the fact that we carry them along as well, every step of the process. For example, I created an energy management plan last year that we set the target. Before I presented it to someone like Lauren, I presented it to the operators first. I got their buy-in. Hey guys, our plan is to reach 25% reduction in the next 5 years. Do you think it's possible? they also saw how possible it is when we highlighted all the opportunities we've identified through the Good Catch program. So I think putting all this together works in hand in, creating that culture where everyone is passionate about making progress in terms of conservation.
That's perfect. So Lauren, let me kind of close with you in this panel discussion before we, so after that, any questions from the audience, please kind of post them now, and I'll ask Amandeep what he's got after this. But Lauren, you went through what can be sometimes challenging with the operating room ventilation setback, but generally, have you got thoughts on managing the communication with the interface with the different hospital departments, the people are actually using the facility? Do they notice anything going on here? What does it take? How do you go about getting their support and their buy-in?
So absolutely, it is a real teamwork, team effort, and not just between, the facilities department and our P3 partners. It's important that we engage the hospital stakeholders. So when we did the OR setbacks, we ensured that the OR staff, the key players, we engaged them at our energy working group meetings so that they could sort of hear firsthand what we were trying to do and why we were trying to do it. We ensured that we have the backup necessary. So we provided them with like CSA standards. We did a lot of trials before we actually implemented any of the changes. And it was only once that they were comfortable with what we were trying to do that we actually implemented the change. Similarly with lighting setbacks, for the most part, we're ambulatory and generally we don't operate after hours, but we do have certain departments that are 24/7. So we were able to isolate those areas on the BAS to ensure that they had adequate lighting levels for their areas. We have a general call number, which is a 3900 call for anybody in the building that has any facility related issue. And so we ensure that we send out communications when we make changes, reminding staff that, if they are experiencing any issues within their space, that they can dial that number. And then we ensure that we have somebody from facilities go and check in. And if it is due to a change that we've made, we can again isolate that particular area to provide them with the services they need.
That is, that's great. So before I kind of wrap up this piece of the session, Amandeep, any questions, or is everybody answering the story so completely that nobody has any questions to ask?
I think that's the case. So right now there's no questions.
Perfect. So let me kind of summarize from having these and other conversations around all of this. We tend to think in terms of energy efficiency around technology and the newness of equipment, the newness of hospitals. The examples we tried to pick on here, I think they all in different ways underscore the reality that energy efficiency, sustainability is very human. It's got a lot more to do with people and their motivation and their interest and the knowledge and the information they're provided with than it has to do with capital investment. But when when the investment request is made, when the business case is submitted, again, some hospitals are in more difficult situations than others, but the general statement that with a proper business case that's well thought through and credible, the money's forthcoming. So our thanks. I think we'll have a virtual round of applause here for our panelists. And again, thank you for your candor, for your sharing, and for how much time you put in, not just today, but leading up to the session. This stuff is powerful, and this ultimately is what we can all build upon to get us all to where we want to go, which is low carbon hospitals, low operating costs, and coming out of this better than we went in. So, so thank you all. And